Hello summoners and welcome back to another ProGuides mid-patch update video. My name is Kellen and today I'll be going over all the new strongest champions using fresh stats to give you the most accurate and best tier list available. We encourage all of our viewers to comment on our tier lists and say if you agree or disagree with specific champion placements. As a reminder, we'll also be adding the new champion Kiana, the Empress of Elements. A lot has changed since the beginning of 9.13 and there's a lot to cover, but do you want to see huge improvements to your rank? Then I want you to click the link in the description below and check out ProGuides.com. With our Pro Pass, you get exclusive benefits to pro courses, and for a limited time only, you can get it bundled with our Teamfight Tactics Pro Pass. On top of that, we have a new feature called InstaPro, which provides unlimited 24/7 on-demand coaching from the best of the best. Over 100,000 gamers have used InstaPro today and ranked up significantly because of it, so don't miss out on this opportunity and rank up now using the link below. The top lane tier list for our mid-patch update does see quite a few changes compared to the one that we had at the start of the patch. However, one thing that remains the same is Mordekaiser sitting on his S+ tier throne. He is currently at a whopping 68% ban rate and holds over a 53% win rate, which is pretty insane. It's safe to say that his rework was successful and Mordekaiser is a lot stronger and more satisfying to play than his previous iteration. For Alawi, she received a mini rework at the start of the patch and she's so close to making that small push into S tier. Her win rate and ban rate have gone up significantly and our analysts were spot on in predicting her stance in the meta. For now, she remains mostly as an A tier champion pick, but make that push to S tier could be very soon if Mordekaiser gets nerfed. It's a nasty matchup for Alawi, trust me. There is a new notable A tier pick that has a sudden surge in win rate this patch, which is Kennen. This is likely due to Tahm Kench and Alawi seeing more play, but Kennen is definitely stronger this patch than the numbers really prove. Our challenger analysts highly recommend you add Kennen to your champion pool because he's going to come in handy versus a lot of popular top lane champions in the meta. Kiana was recently released onto the Rift and she'll be placed in our C tier for now. The Empress of Elements still needs some time getting used to for most players, which is why her win rate is so low. We'll have to wait to see more of her true potential, but for now, we'll keep her in a sweet spot between good and bad. The last champion that we're going to talk about in the top lane is Riven. Although she was nerfed a few patches ago, Riven is still sitting in S tier and is a great pick for 9.13. Her Conqueror build with Death Stance and Black Cleaver still does a ton of damage while also healing an insane amount. Her win rate has only been going up the past couple of patches and she only gets better from here. Alright, let's talk about jungle. The jungle tier list remains very similar to the one that we had previously, with one exception being the S tier. In S tier, we have Hecarim, Evelynn, Vi, Elise, Sejuani, Kayn, Master Yi, and a welcoming back face in Jarvan. J4 is the king of ganking and utility in the jungle, and his win rate has had a sudden spike this patch, and he's made it back into S tier. His fast engage combined with pick potential in his ultimate allow him to become the perfect solo queue jungler who can fit into any team composition. Jarvan can be AD, tanky, off-tanky, bruiser, top lane, mid lane, support, jungle, doesn't matter. Jarvan is a good champion at the moment for climbing. However, that being said, it appears that Hecarim is still the best solo queue jungler in the game at the moment, and he's your go-to horse for some freelo. It doesn't appear that he'll be nerfed anytime soon, so make sure you add him to your champion pool. Hecarim is one of the best junglers at punishing enemy mistakes, so make sure you learn how to play him if you want some easy wins, especially in the lower ranks where players are constantly mispositioned and easily gankable. Udyr received some massive buffs at the start of the patch, but remains as an A tier pick for our mid-patch update. His kit was buffed in the mid to late game, which barely affects Udyr's stance on the meta because he's an early game aggressive jungler. But the extra movement speed and shields late game never hurt him. It was an overall buff, but it wasn't necessarily game changing. Lastly, Sylas had a few base stats at the start of the patch being buffed, and a lot of pro players have been spamming him in the jungle. If you want to learn more about how to play Sylas jungle, then make sure you check out our previous video called OP Korean Builds for 9.13, where we go over everything you need to know about Sylas jungle. What to build, how to play him, what to max, that stuff. Alright, let's move on to mid lane. The mid lane tier list does have a couple changes, but most of them are very minor. In our S tier, we have Zed, Mordekaiser, Ahri, Vladimir, Twisted Fate, Malzahar, Talon, and a new member in Katarina. Kat's win rate is super good at the moment, and her pick rate is even higher than Vladimir, Malzahar, and Lux, or even Talon. On top of that, her ban rate is surprisingly high at 9%, which clearly puts her in the S tier caliber. She's definitely a sleeper OP champion right now that a lot of players underestimate because they're so used to Katarina being a decent pick, but never the best. They're used to people having a bad laning phase on Katarina and getting punished because she can be hard CC'd in teamfights, but with the Conqueror and Death Stance build, she eliminates a lot of her weaknesses similar to Riven. Twisted Fate's on-hit build and AD build has been tearing up the solo queue ladder recently, and it's become a common favorite amongst professional mid laners. Whether it's Korea, NA, China, or EU, everybody's been spamming this build, and it's just bringing them great results overall. In fact, this build is almost permabanned in high elo due to how versatile and flexible it is. If your team lacks AD, then you can go full crit. If they lack AP, you can still go a hybrid build with Nashor's Tooth. For Qiyana, she seems to be a little bit stronger as a mid laner than a top laner, but her stance in the meta isn't the best. Her damage feels relatively underwhelming, and her bruiser build seems to be the better option. It's like she's an assassin, but they forgot to give her assassin-like numbers. However, nothing is set in stone, and players might magically find a new build for her which makes her OP, but for now she'll stay similar to top lane in our mid lane C tier. Kassadin, otherwise known as Kassawin, received an indirect buff this patch due to the gold change made on Rod of Ages. Roa is now 97% gold efficient with 0 stacks, which is a huge buff for champions who want to use Roa as a core item. Having that reduced gold means that Kassadin can now hit his power spikes a lot faster and become that 1v9 machine more consistently. However, he'll remain in A tier for now due to his horrendous early game and his really bad matchups into good AD champions such as Yasuo, Zed, or Talon. Okay, let's talk about bottom laners. So the ADC list seems very similar to the one that we had previously, with the exception of S tier. In our S tier, we have Jinx, Draven, Caitlyn, Ezreal, Kai'Sa, and a new member, Vayne. Despite the several nerfs she received a couple of patches ago, Vayne is still a strong contender to make the push to S tier, and has finally done it again this patch. Even with a ton of her bad matchups being good, such as Draven and Caitlyn, and seeing a lot more play these days, Vayne has managed to make her way back into S tier. Sivir did receive a nerf on this patch, and it impacted her early game mana issues, which is something that she's always had a problem with. It was an okay nerf in theory, but the numbers weren't that good, and she still seems to be really good. On top of that, she even had an indirect nerf to Essence Reaver, which is one of the main reasons she has a good stance in the meta, but despite both these changes, they were not enough to drop her out of being the best overall bottom laner that you can play in solo queue. She will stay in S+ tier. Tristana received a couple of nice small buffs this patch, and she rocket jumped her way into A tier. Although these buffs are small on paper, her stance in the meta became better and more significant than what we even predicted. The buffs definitely help her out a ton, and you can expect to see some Trist in pro play for the next patch. Lastly, Sona bottom lane was nerfed in patch 9.13, but her combo with Taric remains intact. The unlimited healing combined with their heavy CC is great for teamfights, which is exactly why this duo is still a thing. Although Sona does less damage now, the core strengths of Sona Taric remain, and they'll be placed in A tier for a mid-patch update. Alright, support mains, keep an eye out because we're moving on to support, and a lot has changed since the previous tier list. However, something that hasn't changed at all is S tier, which is Lux and Nautilus sitting at the very top of S+ tier. For whatever reason, Lux was not touched at all this patch, which is very surprising given her insane win rate, popularity, and both power in solo queue and competitive play. She is by far the best support in the game right now due to her strong burst, peel, shields, range, wave clear, and tankiness from the Aftershock or Guardian build. Nautilus, however, does trail slightly behind Lux in terms of power because he's a bit more one-dimensional than she is. He excels at engaging and locking down opponents while being super tanky at the same time, but just doesn't have the amount of safe poke that she has or burst damage that Lux has. However, he's still a solid pick for 913, and it should be fairly easy to add him to your champion pool because he's pretty straightforward. Press R or press Q to engage, and make sure to auto-attack everybody in teamfights to get that CC. Yuumi has evolved from being the inting cat to the 1v9 cat. She's currently one of the strongest supports in competitive play due to her very safe playstyle, heavy peel, and annoying poke. Although her win rate is still relatively low at 48%, do not be fooled by this. She is a super strong champion in the right hands, and most likely will receive another nerf soon. Lastly, but certainly not least, Pyke received a couple of nerfs on this patch that were directed at his role as a solo laner, but it appears that they've also affected him as a support. Although he did receive a few compensation buffs to prevent his win rate from dropping in the support role, those buffs clearly were not enough, and Pyke has dropped to our A tier supports for the mid-patch update. Alright guys, that's gonna be it for our mid-patch analysis video for patch 9.13. If you enjoyed this video, then please leave a like, comment, and subscribe to our channel to be notified of our next video. Also, make sure to check out our previous video on the 6 best jungle paths and OP Korean builds for 9.13 if you want to maximize your chances at winning. Make sure you are also checking out our website at ProGuides.com for free content and guides that were made by your favorite pro players. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the Rift.